No, I mean, like that's the apocalypse in Chicago. That's the reason why. Like, if it's time to go to school. I mean, like, I'm from the Midwest. Like, when I graduated from college, like, during the crash. So, like, first place I got a job was in Chicago. Because I interned on the East Coast. So, my guys crash, so, like, a lot of people intern.
It's fine.
I was at like a company that managed all the technology. I come from like a food project for 6 years and I was in it like right as it started to like kick off. And it was like, it actually was like good for me because like I understand a lot about data, so it was like good for the people who understand about data. But was less good for the people who didn't really understand data. Oh my gosh, like they finally got their stuff, kind of got their stuff together the month before, and they were like, oh, we only have a month to do all this stuff and like audit all these things and like basic things where it's like honestly, just doing the, I had to do all like just internal audit, not even like the audit, just like our company's internal audit, and like people like just like didn't even know, like finance didn't even know like all the numbers. Like so, like they telling us to know my data, and they never check the words at a time. Like if somebody is an EU citizen, if they're working in the United States for the last year, does their information fall under GDPR because they're technically here, you're older than citizens can check it. And so like, just like you just come in, you didn't talk to any lawyers. And some of it was like before interpretation, like you didn't know the month before. We were on Sunday calls, and I yeah.
So it's September.
Because you're like doing this very gracefully.
They're waiting for church to have that. I did. One person and this one person. Go find this 5 minutes. Sit over and
So for us,
like I said, like I did a lot of stuff mostly related to law, and then internal stuff because they were like, you understand data, and like also like I'm not a lawyer, like you guys just saying suit, they were just like, can you update privacy laws? And I was like, and I was like, can you send it? I was like, can you send this to a lawyer? And they're like, we don't have time for that. I was like, you don't want to take it for that because I was like, I can get some stuff and recommend what you can update, but I was like, I made sure that right, like you need to have a lawyer advise you on this. And I don't know if they ever do that. We had just check the password real quick and see like that he's good.
what's up, man? Good to see you guys. Good to see you. Yeah. Pretty good. How are you? Pretty good. Do you work at that? No. For the event? It is. Yeah, so I work in a co-working spot right next to Griffin.
Okay, everyone, I think we're going to get started soon. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for braving the weather. My name is Lauren Mack. I'm from Legal Hackers. Woo! Legal Hackers is a community of lawyers, technologists, developers, policymakers, and academics who explore solutions and problems at the intersection of law and technology. The first chapter was started here in New York, and now we have spread to 6 continents. We have over 100 chapters all over the world, and it's been a really crazy ride. Legal Hackers was started by myself and Mr. Phil Weiss, who suddenly disappeared, but he is one of my co-founders and co-directors in our common mission, as Professor Atkins said. And he is also filming tonight, very graciously. There he is, Mr. Phil Weiss. Thank you to Phil for filming, and also for all of you. If you we are filming tonight is being live streamed. It'll be up on our YouTube forever. If you do not want to be up on our YouTube forever, you might want to refrain from asking questions, but we, of course, encourage you to do so. Secondly, thank you so much to OpenLaw, and particularly Anne, who has been amazing, and everyone for donating their time tonight. They didn't have to, and I'm so excited to hear and to learn along with all of you. Oh, also another note on legal hackers. Next month is our Computational Law and Blockchain Festival. So if you are interested in smart contracts, computational law, the blockchain, look out for another event from us very soon on that topic. And finally, thank you to Baker Hostetler for providing this fantastic space in Minnesota, especially on such late notice. Thank you guys. We like to ride by the seat of our pants. And with that, I'm going to throw it over to Baker Hostetler to say a few words, and then OpenLaw can take it away. Thank you.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Baker Hostetler. My name is Tiffany Meow, and I am a litigation associate at the firm and a member of the firm's blockchain legal team. For those of you that are not familiar with Baker, we are one of the nation's largest law firms. We have over 940 attorneys, and we represent clients around the globe. The New York office has over 160 lawyers and is led by George Sambolidis, who also co-leads the White Collar Investigations and Securities Enforcement team, and is with us tonight. The firm itself handles a variety of matters ranging from litigation, business, IP, tax, and employment law. Our attorneys have knowledge and experience in many industries: energy, media, hospitality, financial services. The firm also has several emerging issues groups, including blockchain technologies and digital currencies. In fact, we launched our blockchain legal team at the beginning of last year. It is led by Laura Gell, a nationally recognized technology and privacy attorney. The team draws from about 65 attorneys across the entire firm, including myself, and we've counseled clients in the blockchain space, including consensus, on a bunch of matters relating to GDPR, domestic and foreign securities laws, public and social policy issues. My colleague Diana will speak more about the R&D efforts at the firm that are related to blockchain.
Hey everybody, I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Diana Stern. I'm a lawyer and a legal innovation designer on our R&D team, which we fondly refer to as Incubator. We're a full-time, we're a full-time dedicated team, and we focus on leveraging emerging technologies to support the practice of law and delivery of legal services for our lawyers and also our clients. So we focus on AI, data analytics, and blockchain technology. That's the space I play in the most. So some of the projects that we're working on now are a 50-state survey of crypto and blockchain legislation, which we put on an interactive map so you can filter and find trends for all 50 states. We've also collaborated with clients on smart contract experiments, and I'm really glad that OpenLaw is here because we've been following you guys for a while and talking with you, and I'm really excited to see what you have to share with us. So thank you all again for coming. We're really glad to be hosting you.
Hi everyone, I'm Anne Griffin. I'm the lead product manager at OpenLaw. And so if you've ever been in our Slack community, likely you have spoken to me. So we're here tonight to talk about Smart Contracts 101, but first I want to say thank you to Legal Hackers for co-hosting this with us. And also, again, can't say enough, Baker Hostetler, thank you so much because this was very last minute and we really appreciate you inviting us into your space and letting us host this event with you. So really appreciate that. But tonight, we'll kind of go back to the original slide. Tonight we're gonna, as I said, go through Smart Contracts 101, and we're gonna speak with Michael Chan, who is a legal engineer at OpenLaw. We're also gonna speak to Ross Campbell, who's the legal lead at, is it OMGPool?
Yeah, it's kind of a silly name, but Facebook,
At OMGPool. But just to get a read of the room before we start, so that might change some of the context of what our presenters are going to talk tonight. Who here in the room feels like they have a really good understanding of what blockchain is? It's okay to not raise your hand. Who in the room feels like they already have a good idea of what smart contracts are? Okay, so this is part of the reason we're having this type of event, is because there's many people who feel like they have a good idea. There's a lot of people who are like, I've heard of it, I don't necessarily know anything else about it. And then there's other people where they know about it, but it's great to see how people are applying it and see different demos. So one of the things we're going to try to do tonight, even though we have some slides for you, we're going to try to show more than we tell. So we have some great things to show. Just actually, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, and Ross, I'll let you introduce yourself when you do your part. But first, we'll actually have Michael Chan come up and tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'll let you kick off our presentation. And again, thank you, everyone.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming out. My name is Michael Chan. I am a legal engineer. Here is my official title, OpenLaw. My quick background is I was an attorney for 10 plus years, took some detours in software back and forth, and finally just ended up at OpenLaw. That's the short story. But again, thank you, Baker Hostetler, for hosting us. And so I'll just kick it right off, and we'll just start it off and go from there. So our traditional legal agreement process is, reverse written agreements appeared in Mesopotamia 1,000 years ago. Put them into clay tablets, and we've been trying to make progress ever since then. But really, the purpose of legal agreements is to memorialize human relationships, help people take risks, build industries, and serve as a guide to run organizations. So you're wondering, how does this come into? How does smart contracts make this? How does it make it better? How do we improve on this process of exchanging clay tablets back and forth, looking for signatures? Well, what is a smart contract? A smart contract is essentially just code facilitated via blockchain. That's really all it is. It's just some code that delivers some information, and that's it, and executed on a blockchain. But so I know most of you are already familiar with blockchain and smart contracts, at least a little bit, but just in case somebody in the room isn't, and I'll just go through it really quick. The blockchain essentially is a huge global decentralized spreadsheet. It's immutable, its previous entries can be updated, and it basically keeps track of who sent how many bitcoins or ether to whom, and what the balance of every address or account is on the entire chain. And it's stored and maintained by thousands of people distributed across the globe. So that's what they mean when they say decentralized and distributed. So it's distributed everywhere, and there's not really one single point of authority, say as Google or Facebook, that just holds all your data. Next graph on centralization, decentralized, distributed. So you can be decentralized, distributed, and that's where we are. But let's see here. So going back to Google Sheets. So basically, imagine if anyone could create a new row, but no one could go through and edit the existing rows. And essentially, if you just extend that up to thousands and thousands of entries, then you have this giant ledger that is basically a worldwide ledger that nobody can, you can't really go back and change. It's very cheap to defend, very cheap to defend and very expensive to attack the blockchain. So to go through and try to change this, you need an excessive amount of computing power, which is billions of dollars worth, and if you can find that, and you have to be able to find this amount to go essentially change this one row. Let's see here. Let's see. Essentially a blockchain works with public-private key cryptography, which is basically just, an analogy would be like if you had a mailbox and you had a key to it, you put a letter in that mailbox. So anybody can send you a letter in this mailbox, but only one person has the key. So like you have the key, but anybody can send you mail. Unlike a credit card, where if I show my credit card number up here, I'd have to be worried about you stealing my information. But no offense to anybody in the room. Let's see here. And so that's basically the difference. The Ethereum blockchain is essentially a step past the Bitcoin blockchain that it stores. You can store logic. Bitcoin was sort of the first proof of concept for distributed blockchain, and that was just sending payments. But Ethereum, and there's other blockchain platforms out there, but Since we're in OpenLaw, we primarily focus on Ethereum. That's kind of where I'm going to talk about. But we can store logic, and we can know if this happens, then send payment here. Or if this happens, then execute this function, this function. Let's see here. So code is law. We can complete a secure, what does this mean? Code is law, essentially, there's basically things that we think about that can be coded into law. And not everything can be coded into law. And I like to say to people a lot is that code is very logical, so it's very good for doing things like tax compliance, divvying up an artistic license, and managing property rights. What it's not so good at, what smart contracts are really not very good at, is defining how accounting for reasonableness, and people are crazy. So because people are crazy, you can't really code that into your logic. So to have this completely automated vision of dystopia, utopia, I don't know how you're gonna, either way, you don't want to, it's not gonna work to have every single thing and try to distill it all down into a smart contract logic. So there is sort of this line that we try to hold on to. But why do we like smart contracts? As a lawyer, we find that a tamper-proof timestamp of when a transaction or signature occurred that's basically immutable is a very valuable thing. So if this happened on this date, then say you uploaded a piece of evidence to the blockchain, then it's there at that time, and there's pretty much impossible to take that back. Let's see here. We can also complete a secure transaction without any of the traditional institutions that we rely on to establish trust. One example, I guess, would be like if you were, say, a real Nigerian prince, and you had a real domain name for sale, but the reality is you had all these email scams, and nobody trusts you, Nigerian princes anymore. Well, if you had a domain name registry that operated on the blockchain, you don't need a middleman. You have that trust. So now you don't have to go through a government or an institution to trust. Now trust is cheaper to access. And if you're in a country without a rule of law, this might be the best thing you have available to you. So that's kind of the nice thing about the blockchain. Whereas in the U.S. we have a pretty well established rule of law, but sometimes maybe you want to bypass this middleman. Let's see here. Okay. Well, at least within OpenLaw, our relationship to the Ethereum blockchain is essentially this. We have the Ethereum blockchain down here, and then we have our legal protocol, OpenLaw, here. And so we basically built our protocol on top of this Ethereum blockchain. So all our smart contracts and everything in our agreements they all are connected to the Ethereum blockchain. And now, then leveraging our protocol, you can do all sorts of things with these smart contracts. Real estate lending, you can build DAOs, which are decentralized autonomous organizations. You can make a complete token economy through legal agreements. The token economy is just essentially, if you don't know, it's just basically shares in a company or in a non-fungible token, which is something that represents an artwork, a comic book, or a baseball card. I hope I'm not going too fast, but I'm trying to go along with this. So I covered this a little bit, but why would someone need or use a smart contract? Right? We have legal agreements. This is our traditional legal process. I would like to send my draft here. I'd like to send your draft here. Let's keep going back and forth. You can do this pretty much ad nauseum, and I'm sure most of you are lawyers. You've done this and you've read this process 1,000 times. And if you're looking for signatures, which you would think to the average layperson would be like, how hard is it to sign a piece of paper? Well, I'm sure there's plenty of associates here who have said, this is the worst part of my job on some days. And then you have this confusion of which draft you had, and hope you had the right draft. But moving on, smart contracts can sort of alleviate some of these solutions. Signature is much better. Once you sign the blockchain, that's it, you're done. As I was saying before, you can manage the metes and boundaries of property rights. I think this is our view within OpenLaw, and I think this is why the best thing about smart contracts. If you have any type of, really you can if you have anything, and you can do it to such a small level that wouldn't have been practical before. At one point, we did sort of an art license thing. We took a piece of art and we divided it up into a couple thousand pieces and distributed it out to everybody. Licensing thing, we were going to get commissioned and track the payments. Now, normally that would involve you having a giant spreadsheet and you have to track when does this expire, when does it not expire. That information can all be done. This all can be done automatically on a blockchain, which is pretty cool. Just to give you a little bit of my background, I worked in-house at a bank. It's one of the first banks to actually take TARP money and then fail. So it was one of the, but one of the things that comes in is some regulators come in, the FDIC comes in, and they go, where are the loan files? We go, they're on that spreadsheet, and there's some in that box over there, and there's some upstairs, and there's some over here, depending on when this loan originated. It originated in 1975 or 2002 or whatever. And then the spreadsheet itself is literally 100 columns of just Excel garbage. So you can cut that up. And that's kind of actually how I got into smart contracts. I was thinking there's got to be a better way, but there is. And I'm sure we can talk about that financial crisis forever, but we won't. Let's see. And I already talked about our reliance. We can reduce our reliance on middlemen and give more people access to a trustworthy platform. And going through this again, sort of repeats what I said, but like smart contracts are can be used to model and enforce legal compliance, so long as the rules are objectively verifiable for things like tax compliance. Like I said, it's not so good for things like enforce majeure clauses and determining what's reasonable or crazy. And so the weather, all these things. But I talked about this a little bit already. Designed for the creation of an entire decentralized internet. And essentially, Ethereum tries to reimagine how we can actually own our data as opposed to just storing it into one Facebook repository and then they get it and sell our data. So if you have your data attached to your address, once you pull your address and you pull it from the application, your data could come with you. That's one of the nice things we are hoping for. But smart contracts have limitations. Blockchains are, at least with Ethereum blockchain, it's public. There are private and permission blockchains, but we're talking about public ones for today. Your data is maybe hashed, but it is still on there. So it's not. So I'd say it's sort of like a pseudo-anonymous thing. And because smart contracts can be designed to automatically execute, that creates commercial risk. Like, for example, if we don't code smart contract just right, then it may have some unintended consequences as to more than we thought. We have to be very careful about that. And for example, Consensus has its own diligence team that goes through and audits all these smart contracts, and it's a real process. And then also, as I talked about the limitation of code, generally, people not always we don't do what you expect. And then usability is also an issue for a lot of blockchain applications. The UI and UX for a lot of these, frankly, it's awful. But hopefully they're getting better, and I think at OpenLaw we've taken a huge step to remove a lot of these, and especially has taken a lot of steps to remove the ugliness within our applications. Solve these issues. Okay. So we're going to do just a little bit about OpenLaw. We have a sort of a templates base that you can use for automatic contract generation. We have embedded logic. You can do simple calculations within our platform. It's enforceable. You have your smart contracts. You have e-signatures, which is basically signed on the blockchain, and you can collaborate, sort of as you would in a Google Doc. But that's the thing, basically. So basically, the process before I run through this quick demo is create a traditional text agreement within OpenLaw. Or you can just upload one you already have, like Word or PDF. You can edit it using our markup language, and then we have sort of a contract management tool to manage all the aspects of your contract, start dates, expiration dates, And then we also allow you to embed smart contracts so you can within our OpenLaw platform, and those can be as complicated or as simple as you would make them. Let's see here. We anticipate most of our users are law firms and financial institutions, other technology companies, use entertainment and as a government interest, and manufacturing for Internet of Things and shipping. But well, I guess one of the things what we like about OpenLaw is that before I sort of run to how I demo this is that we take traditional legal agreements just as standard lawyer would use, and I'll show it up here. That'll be good. This is basically what an OpenLaw looks like. You have your traditional legal agreement. Here, it's an employee offer letter. It just looks like how you would use it. Near the thing, you can go and you can edit. You can create. So this is the markup language here. That it's basically just company. Is you name a variable, say company first name, or say company name. Come back here. You can ABC Inc. And then basically what you have is a template that you can reuse over and over. And essentially the other thing that's kind of cool about this, at least the employee offer letter here, we can start a payment date. We can pay it down. We can break it down. You can get paid by the minute. I'll try and do that here. And you can watch me type for just a second. I apologize. I don't like to watch people type, but let's see. We'll have this start. And we'll do 0.01 ether per minute. I already pre-filled it out. You don't want to watch me type, but essentially what you do is click send. Our contract sends. You can sign the agreement just with OpenLaw, or you can use a MetaMask account, which if you don't know is a browser extension. Let's see here. Let's see if we can, and then it'll send you a template. Let's see. I'm not sure which account is signing here, but you can sign your documents. All right, looks like we're both signing. So just real quick is that watch my browser go slow. You should start seeing some more eventually in a minute or two. Some more ether should be transferred into my account here. And once the signature record successfully signed on the internet here under blockchain, and then you can go to click that, and you'll see this is basically a block explorer that sees. And this is the transaction number, and that shows you your signature has been put onto the blockchain. Go back, let's see here, our smart contract. Oh, looks like I'm getting paid. Should be, yeah, there we go. Another one. I think I have a couple more 0.01 ETH coming my way in a couple minutes here, so we can all hold on with some excitement while I get paid in fake ether. And then the same thing with this, you can go look at it again. So you can break this down pretty quick. Okay, so if you click here, you can see, you can see the transaction here. You can see. Let's see. Happy again. Ooh, rich. Okay, these are fake. These are test ETH. Unfortunately, I do not have anywhere near that much ETH in my account. That's a good thing. I think I could have done that a year ago. Anyways, that is basically how to use. That's basically the demo on how to use our templates. Obviously, it's more involved in by watching me type, but not too much. It's actually, we think the OpenLaw markup language can be, we think you can learn it within maybe roughly an hour, at least the very basics. I think that would be a fair estimate. It's not very complicated. We want it to be essentially the like Microsoft Excel for lawyers. Essentially, you don't have to be a programming genius sit there do as much. You basically just, if you can use if an accountant can use Excel, you can use OpenLaw. That's kind of the end goal of what we're trying to be. On that note, this is 740. I get paid again. Let's see. Okay, I did get paid. Okay, good. Moving on. Should I take questions or just? Okay, I'll take a couple of questions before I show a quick demo video.
So when the blockchain stores the data of signature, what exactly do you store?
There's basically essentially what will happen is you sign it and then a hash of your signature, which is basically this long. A hash is essentially this long version of it looks something like that.
Your Ethereum address.
Yeah.
Basically. Okay.
Well, your Ethereum address, but then it'll be just a random computation of numbers and letters there that'll be stored on there, and then that'll essentially be your unique identifier. Yes. Oh, I mean like the signature, like you.
Can you repeat the question for everyone?
Oh, okay. I'm trying to figure out the question first. So you're trying to figure out if you run out of gas within. Okay. Well, at least with an OpenLaw, you can sign with an OpenLaw account, and currently we're taking care of the gas on that end for us. The other option, if you want to use your own MetaMask account or your own Ethereum account, then you have to account that yourself. But
what would happen with the party that has to make
you can actually.
Let's have everyone ask their questions in the mic so you don't have to repeat it.
Oh, thank you.
Can we repeat that last part?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
Thank you.
The succinct version was just what happens to the person that has to make payments for a payments example. What happens if they don't have enough funds to, at some point, to fuel the transaction? That's the terminology is gas.
Okay, so at least with OpenLaw, you don't have to have a MetaMask account to do this. You don't actually have to have you don't have to have your own Ethereum address or anything. You can just basically all you need. I think you might even have you don't necessarily need an email address, just OpenLaw, or you don't have to be registered to OpenLaw. So at least for us, we will handle that essentially on our back end. So you don't actually we just abstract away and you don't have to deal with that essentially from our end. Does that answer it?
Also, there'll be time for more questions at the end. We just want to make sure people, if they had some fundamental understanding questions, get them out of the way. So we're also going to have Ross present.
I don't have to take the time. Oh, I'm not sure, but go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, as far as I heard, like, if 1% attack happens, there are no legal consequences for someone who did it because that one just played games of the blockchain. So I'm not sure how much is true, but I think it sounds like true. In that case, if someone comes in the game, of course it can cost billions of dollars.
Right.
If he changes his smart contracts, so like in real world, if you change real contracts, it's fraud, and you just redo the documents. What's here?
I think that's kind of what we like at OpenLaw is that, and I think this was sort of attracted me to the platform is that even if, say, the smart contract, let's say there's a billions of dollar attack on the Ethereum blockchain and the whole thing just goes down, there's some new quantum computer that we don't know about, whatever it may be. At the end of the day, we always have to back up with our traditional paper agreements. Like those agreements in clay and tablets, they actually still have some use. So if something fails, you can just be like, oh, listen, well, you know what? We have the written agreement here. We have our four corners of the contract. And we can just go back to how we would normally resolve any other legal dispute of such nature. Okay, all right. Alright, of that, I'll just play this quick video for 5 minutes, and I will, I'll start from there. Okay. Essentially, this is just basically a derivative that we built. I'll start from here. Census is an Oracle provider that offers multiple ways to securely deliver real-world computational data into a smart contract. If you'd like to find out more about OpenLaw, please reach out to us via our website, email, Medium, community Slack channel, or on Twitter. And you can find our friends at Rhombus via their website and email. Today we have automated a standard call option contract and integrated with a custom-built Rhombus Oracle based on the current price of Ether to Gold. Working with Rhombus, we concluded the best way to track this data was a customized aggregation of several sources to robustly represent the current price of Ether to Gold. The current price of 10.2 and change Ether to 1 troy ounce of gold is shown here in this basic user interface. In this example, we are using tokens to represent gold being held in a vault. Each token represents 1 troy ounce of gold. In this case, there are 100 tokens in existence. If the user chooses to exercise their call option, the gold token will instantly transfer upon receipt of payment. As you can see here in the user interface, there are currently 99 gold tokens for sale. Let's go to our OpenLaw agreement. In OpenLaw, we have mocked up a standard option contract using our domain-specific markup language to enable anyone to automate the creation of a legal agreement in minutes. A call option gives the buyer the right to purchase an asset at a specific price over a specified period of time. Clearinghouses currently serve as the intermediary between option sellers and buyers. Under current U.S. regulations, banks and registered broker-dealers are required to have options settled on their customers' behalf within the next business day following trade. Other securities, such as stocks, take 2 days to 2 business days following the trade to settle. However, by using the OpenLaw protocol and the Rhombus Oracle, we are able to fulfill our obligations and settle the option contract instantly. After completing our agreement and signing the Ethereum blockchain, we'll fast forward a couple of minutes. After signing our agreement in OpenLaw, we can confirm the option purchase here in the user interface. In this case, we are charging 0.01 Ether for the option. Now we can fast forward while I wait for the time we entered into the OpenLaw agreement to pass. As you can see here, we have the option to buy Ether to gold for 10.255 Ether to 1 ounce of gold, and the option end time is at 12:50 GMT. After the allotted time has passed, you can see the option we purchased is in the money. Meaning, in this case, that the price of gold has risen relative to the value of Ether. Since our option is in the money, we can now complete our purchase and settle our contract instantly with the purchase and transfer out the gold token. And our gold token has now been bought. And we can see that we have 1 more token for, and the seller has 1 less token. And now the gold vault can withdraw the ether that was received from it, that was received from the option buyer Hermione. And now we have approximately 10.26 ETH, more than we had before, which is the price of the ether, or sorry, the gold token and the option put together. Traditionally, call option contracts currently require intermediaries like banks, traders, lawyers, and clearinghouses. However, with this cross-section of legal documents, smart contracts, and oracles, as seen in this collaboration between OpenLaw and Rhombus, we have shown it is possible to open up and provide a more transparent and accessible financial system, one that is cheaper, faster, and more efficient. Thank you for watching. So, okay. So that's basically open law for us. Thank you for attending and listening. I'd like to hand over it to Anne, or Ross, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, so that was our quick demo overview of kind of smart contracts and showing how we work with them from an interface standpoint on OpenLaw. So Ross is, like I said, legal lead at OMGPool, but he is also our most active community member. He's built a number of agreements and kind of working experiments with the platform and Oracle and other things that he's going to show off today. Especially some of his most recent work is actually with the DAO's Aragon, and he's going to demonstrate that. Are you good? Or?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Great. I'm going to hand it over to Ross, and you can quick intro yourself. Anything that
I don't think there's too much to say about myself. Thanks, Anne. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Vance, for the introduction and demo. Thanks, Phil, for shooting this, and thanks, Dave, for posting it. Now, what I want to do really quickly, in a couple minutes I have left, is demonstrate how you guys can deploy your own smart contracts using a OpenLaw template. Now, for a lot of these templates, you might have to have a pre-deployed smart contract, but what I'm trying to do is figure out ways to use things called factory smart contracts to call them and then create smart contracts that are relevant to your specific deal. Now I can talk about that, or I can just show you some ways to do that. So here we have a basic template that I put together to issue a branded ERC20 digital token. ERC20 is the most common token type of traded digital tokens. You guys might have seen last week that JP Morgan made this big announcement of how they're going to issue something called JPM coin that is ERC20, or at least derived from the ERC20 on their private Quorum blockchain. And there are some people that think that might interact with the public Ethereum blockchain in the future. So as attorneys, as consultants, or whatever you are, if your clients might interact with digital assets in the near future or want to issue their own, it seems important or at least useful to get some basic familiarity with how a token smart contract might work. So without further ado, I pulled up a template called Gimme Token. Now you guys can help me think of a token name. Maybe you want to go with Legal Hacker. LHT. Now ETH address. This is basically, the template is programming the new smart contract to deploy tokens to this specific blockchain address. And a blockchain address is basically your passport to interact with any smart contract or most Ethereum apps. Provide email. Now, funnily enough, my P key doesn't work, so you guys see me copy and paste. I like the element of danger here. So I'm going to send that, and then this immediately takes me to my contract management screen, which is pretty sweet. So I don't have to go to my email. I don't have to monkey around with a doc that I just downloaded. I can actually execute from this screen. So sign the agreement. You can get yourself a copy at this point. It might take 10 seconds, 15, and then we can see how the smart contract's doing as well. Sweet. So we see that it received my signature. That signature should be recorded on the blockchain. Yep. So this is actually because I signed with OpenLaw and I didn't use my own blockchain address. Their service forwarded my info. can't see it. It forwarded my info to their smart contract that's reporting signatures. But let's get more interesting and see if I actually got a token out of this. Now that's loading. Let's reload this. So this is actually, and this bears some explanation. Now, to actually see what's happening on the blockchain, you need something called a blockchain explorer. For Ethereum, Etherscan is the most popular, and it actually allows you to follow up with transactions in real time. Great, so that actually worked, so I'm not super embarrassed. I get to see this token I just created, legal hacker token. This resides on the Rinkeby testnet of Ethereum. I think anybody would have a hard time stealing this token, much harder than stealing it from a centralized party like Cisco, because you have to convince a lot of computers and it's very resource intensive to alter things that happen on a blockchain. But I don't need to go there. So what can I actually do after I executed that form? Let's say I actually want to grab that token. I go to this new token smart contract. I copy the address. And then I go into my digital wallet. Now I'm going to add a custom token. Not every token gets automatically listed when you receive it because there's tons of spam. The benefit of blockchain is permissionless. Anyone can set up a tent. Anyone can issue tokens, make up their own money, whatever. But there's a lot of noise with that. So a lot of digital asset services won't automatically list your tokens. So I provided my contract address. And then I actually have some legal hacker token. It worked, which is cool, right? And let me try to actually send it. So, send to my account 2. Let's send 50. Let's make this super fast. Now I'm going to check on that transaction. I don't want to embarrass myself. So I'll follow up with that later, and hopefully you guys can talk to me after. But I want to move on to another form because I believe I have limited time. So I've already showed how you can deploy a smart contract from something that's familiar to an attorney, a basic form, without having to go onto a service like Remix. You don't have to grab code. I'm actually going to try to show this. So this is the smart contract I just entered. I don't want lawyers to ever have to deal with this, so that's kind of my goal with these OpenLaw forms. Now this is a way to load up that smart contract I just interacted with, and I can probably show you guys how to deploy it real quick. I wish I had more time, because this is probably just annoyingly brief, but I think it's more fun to show. So this is a token smart contract. We scroll down here. You see that it is ERC20. It's owned, so it has a public owner. And here's the actual smart contract that we deployed. And I arranged for certain inputs, this symbol, the name of the token, the owner, be fed into the smart contract. And I was able to, let me just go back to the form. So that's that smart contract address. Let me actually look at it. Yeah. And so you see the smart contract address there? This is how I'm interacting from the OpenLaw template. And I'm calling functions, specifically a new token. And these are how I'm inputting it. But it would be great if I could actually show you guys some more. Because I'm already on this template, let's try something different. Let me, instead of saying give me token, and I will collab. Let's see if that showed up. Okay, cool. So this is kind of like a partial obsession of mine is, Michael gave a great overview of why digital tokens, blockchain transactions are interesting to lawyers who get a tamper-proof ledger. We've seen how hackings of not only law firms but our clients can really screw things up. especially as more money moves online. It can be quite terrible, actually. If you can't get access to your funds, I mean, not only we see this politically with Venezuela trying to get their gold out of the Bank of England, but you can also have people, bank runs, people in Venezuela, they can't get their money, or even myself, I can't go to a bank on a Saturday evening, and, I can't get basic financial services from my perspective, so, but I'll try not to give a huge rant about that. So let's actually do a token, so, address, populate it there, and once it's received, I'll a few times because this token represents an obligation that I'm signing to, and I'm signing that to a blockchain, so no one can monkey with that fact. This probably isn't your interest. So that's going to work. We have a more tailored document, and it's really something I ask you guys to do maybe the next month before the computational law event is to take this gimme token form and add as much stuff as you want to it. Try to create weird obligations that you're tying to a token that's coming out of the form that you're executing. It seems like a pretty direct way to link it. And I'm curious what you guys can come up with. But I'm going to try to show some of these more along the lines of what trains are dealing with. So this is actually something I worked out this afternoon, and it is a deal package. So on OpenLaw, you can actually link certain templates into something called a deal, so that people that go to this deal template can have all those relevant forms already listed. So here I have a New York LLC formation. For our purposes, I'm going to look at an article of organization and a New York operating agreement. So I'm going to start, and we can actually see the pull up of the two different documents. So name the LLC, I'm going to name this Bruner, or Bruner actually, great. New version process letters forwarded. What's in its email address? So, and I'm going to move on to my other thing. And good enough, it's self-populated from my other form, which is convenient. Now, that little thing there is actually something you can see in the form itself, the date pull down, but I don't want to get too distracted. Bruder, address. You guys will bear with me for 1 second. I'll try to finish this form and then take questions. Format. Term start. Reggie, our agent. Let's say he's not. This is really tedious, but it's a lot less tedious than doing it yourself on a Word document, I would say. Medicine and sweet. Let's go 50-50. 50-50 membership interests that I'm going to try to represent. Tokens. Rob. It's also Madison for some reason. I hear restless to say. Alright, finally. Sending draft. So this tells me that I'm missing a few books somewhere, so I'm going to try to track them down. Oh. It all got screwed up. Okay. Here we go. I think that actually happened to me earlier today, so that's kind of funny. Well, so this is the smart template, predictable drafting exercise. I was able to run through it and populate with all of my details. Tons of boilerplate, but this is in market form, and we're all used to looking at boilerplate, right? Cool. Let's sign it. Let's see if I get a token for my membership interests. execute, we actually watch the blockchain transaction as it's happening. Rinkeby, I think, runs around 4 seconds, right, or something. Sweet. You'll get used to this. Oh, cool, is that executed? All right, cool, everything's coming together. So, let me see if I got my LLC token. Let me check that again. Sometimes Etherscan doesn't show token transfer for a couple seconds. Michael could actually provide a real explanation for why this is happening. Yeah. So, Bruner, cool. So I got my tokens. Let me actually add it to my wallet. Then I can send it. So, that's it. Oh, cool. So that did go through. I'm missing 50. So hopefully it went where it's supposed to. I'm optimistic. Cool. All right. That was cool, right? And like I hope you guys can actually use these forms and not only clear the mess with your own deals, but actually have your own smart contract experience, and you can claim that in polite conversation. You know, you can say I've actually deployed a smart contract and it'd be technically true, and that's been great. So, you guys have questions for me, Mike?
Raise your hand if you have a question. I'll come to you, Mike. Dude.
Hey, I have a question for Ross, actually. When you were showing the gimme token function, the template, let's say your client comes to you and they have a Word document that also incorporates that gimme token part of the template. Yeah. What would the process be like to then have someone on your team audit the code that goes with that? Because you want to make sure that whatever's being told your client would actually do.
Yeah, I'm using the, funnily enough, it's like a smart contract generator. Can you explain how that works? I'm showing here. Okay. I'll show, you can tell maybe. So let me actually go to an execution. You can actually audit the smart contract. So call record, and that's going to tell me what this template is calling. And this is the smart contract that's generating tokens. It's actually generated 1,109 tokens so far, which is crazy. I think I have a spam attack going. But anyways. You can then go to the code, which I have uploaded. It's public.
And even if it's not public, if you go to this API, that portion of that code will always be publicly exposed. So the beauty of smart contracts generally is that the code for the contracts is public. So any smart contract you use, like the code's out there, and you know, it's not like some black box you put into. It's actually anybody with any developer like myself or Ross could come here and say, oh, this is what it is.
This is actually what you would grab to put into a template, right? You need a smart contract address. You'd copy and paste this. Let me start a new template. Yeah, because you guys actually came out with a tool or something. That's like, oh yeah. So custom component, I can do the API there. Contract address. Alright, I'm gonna embarrass myself. But the short answer is yeah, you can. You totally can.
Sorry, who had their hand up earlier? Okay, you.
So for creating tokens for like an LLC or for that matter a corporation, if I have transfer restrictions on ownership, can I bake in those transfer rules? Like let's say you need 100% of the owners to agree to any one owner transferring, and I'm an owner and 3 months later I want to transfer to my friend. Can I just like post that I want to transfer this and then everybody holds a vote?
So I don't know how you would do. You probably can do that with a smart contract from the get-go. What I would do is I just put those tokens in a DAO vault, which is a very quick situation.
Yeah, you could escrow them, or I mean, you could just require. I mean, you could have the smart contract coded so you need X percentage of tokens for this to execute.
Yeah.
Okay. Pretty simple.
And you could also, I mean, you can get kind of centralized. So like one party might control transfers for a contract.
Yeah.
So you
have a lot of ways to
You could have like a corporate agent or an executive within a company that has, I guess, the permission or the authority tied to their blockchain address to approve transfers of that specific token. And then you might have a whitelist that they know about. People that have earned stock, they would just know what those tokens mean in the real world.
Right. I mean, you can create like a white list of addresses or a black list of addresses. So for your customer purposes, actually blockchain is a super nice thing. You can have a list of pre-approved Ethereum addresses that are allowed to interact with the smart contract.
Yeah. So I hope that answers it. A lot of stuff I feel like if I knew more about smart contracts, maybe I could get a better answer.
That was good. Thank you.
So it looks like there's, well, as far as what OpenLaw is trying to do, and I took a look at the website as well. So you've got a number of different examples here for people to get on, and it's supposed to be easy uptake. Fill in the forms, you can execute these contracts just for people who may not have the resources for kind of bespoke legal advice. Is that right at kind of the onset?
Well, I mean, we're not necessarily in the business of giving legal advice, but we do kind of envision sort of a wiki type situation where you can upload agreements.
Oh, no, it's like the legal Zoom. You do your own legal stuff without the advice of, you're not getting, I didn't mean to suggest that. You're not going to be like arrested for unauthorized practice law. What I was trying to go for is, I mean, you're at Baker right now. A lot of what we end up doing is more that bespoke work. It's not the form agreements. If you had those, then you wouldn't have to hire us at whatever multiples of like getting that work done. But are you moving toward kind of a modularity with this? So when you're looking at breaking down, you've got a contract. There's a lot of different things that are incorporated in it, and you want like a full agreement, especially if you get somebody that's just trying to like use a bed and breakfast or do something that is relatively simple. But when we think about how we build up these contracts, I mean, oftentimes there's a lot of complexity to different parts. There's moving parts. There's a lot of different parties. Is that where you think you're going as far as building that up? I think we're
moving towards that where we can handle it. And I think in the coming weeks, I think you'll see something relatively soon as to where we handle more complex transactions.
If I
I'll have a quick word from Aaron, who's actually the founder and CEO of OpenLaw.
Yeah, so on that piece, this is and I think you've seen pieces of it. So we built a tool that we call OpenLaw First Draft, which is a domain-specific markup language. We can handle any complexity of legal agreements. So we're, just for example, we're working with the LSTA. We've completely automated credit agreement. So can't get much more complex than that. We can model that all out. And frankly, and I know I worked at Big Law, and I know the pride of lawyers at Big Law. But most of the time, a lot of what you're working through, except in the most bespoke agreements, is a decision tree. You're not that dissimilar from like a doctor working through like a checklist in order to prepare something that's necessary for the client. So we've mirrored that out now in software. So you can bake in all those contingencies, all of that optionality, and get control over those agreements, which I think is magical, right? As being somebody that was senior in a law firm, when you're working with somebody that's junior, you don't trust them, right? You don't trust them because you don't know that they actually went through that decision tree that has kind of been baked into your head over the past, 7-8 years, over thousands upon thousands of hours worth of work. But now you can basically model that out, and you get all the full expressiveness of what lawyers can do, and then what Ross and others are showing is you can now take that even beyond to the next level. So the vision for OpenLaw is really as tools and like a toolbox, build not basic legal services, legal service tools like we saw with kind of the first generation LegalZoom and Rockefeller. It's actually to build a comprehensive open source suite of tools that can bring this to the masses. Because frankly, legal services are way too expensive. Lawyers are wonderful. I love them. Charge too much. It hurts people in the long run, and it doesn't scale globally. And I think we've seen in every single age of the world, systems, networks that operate globally, that are interoperable, they tend to win. And we think that this is a great approach to do that, particularly we made incredible strides there. I mean, a lot of these tools we built in the past year. We're really just getting started. It's coming. In 5 years, I think you feel it.
Please raise your hand if you have a question, just so I can kind of see this one.
think Aaron kind of partially already answered this, but I was wondering, so before you guys signed either of the smart contracts, is there a mechanism for the parties to negotiate the terms? So I was just thinking about the example of the offer letter. What's the mechanism for someone to go in and negotiate a specific provision?
Oh, I'm gonna borrow Ross here. He is. Okay. Basically, you can just go. You can send drafts back and forth, and once you're ready to execute the drafts, you can execute that. But there is basically there's a versioning system, so you can see, person A the header has this version at this time, and then person B made this edit, so you can track all the edits and draft them as you go.
Can you open versions real quick just to show them?
Yes, be shown that.
I mean, ideally you get a domain swapping. Yeah. I think we just swapping back agreements. I would love to see a role for that, except in the most bespoke of arrangements. So the idea, and I think that this is the possibility here, you can actually begin to model out standard provisions. Like if you're dealing with an indemnity clause, it's going to be like, I'm going to want this in favor of my client, and that's how we're going to propose it. The other side is going to come back and say, no, I want it in favor of my client, and you're going to pick the intermediate clause. So why not just model out those three things, and people can just talk about it or communicate about it and just pick it and then it's drafted, and you don't have to worry about the fine spec. I know that that may be a different way to look at things, but I'm very interested in exploring kind of that approach. And I think that that handles most, if not all, of complex commercial negotiation if it was fully fleshed out. But people seem to want to negotiate more. Lawyers seem to continue to want to take their big. So we'll, I think we still need to solve that issue. That's a tricky issue to solve.
Did you stand up your question?
Yes.
So I immediately see the value of the templates where you can put in all of the values through human input and then sort of lock in that agreement as it is on a blockchain. That seems valuable immediately. I'm curious where OpenLaw is at when it comes to not just text input, but the return of functions into those inputs. So one thing I might be looking for in the operating agreement, for instance, is like a buy-sell agreement that says that if you leave with your consent, you can trade in your token for an equivalent amount of ether based on your ownership, something like that. And then you can
right. So essentially, within OpenLaw, you can call any function you want to call onto your smart contract. You can call within your OpenLaw template. So if you have, I want to transfer this token at this time. If this happens, then you have to call. Then you can just call this function. For example, you have this button here. You can add in your own smart contract. Ross showed this a little bit earlier, but you can go through that. But also, if you go through, you can also do sort of basic, and just to sort of branch off from that, if you have basic functions, like say you want to calculate, like for the employee offer letter, if you want to calculate what your yearly salary is from the minute that I put in, then you can do basic calculations within the template too. It's, this times this. Now we don't have to do it on the blockchain itself. You can do it within our template, and then that'll calculate it there. We try to build out more of those as we go, but you can do basic, adding vision and all that kind of thing.
So Phil, we also are rolling out in the next couple weeks something that we call flows and forms. So a lot of what I think you're thinking about is a workflow, right? You want one thing to happen and then another thing to happen. This law is effectively like a stepwise function. So right now you can do some of that, right? You can have multiple calls. And you can kind of trigger them conditionally, like if these events occur, then trigger this. The one thing blockchains don't have is time, right? So they can record time, but they don't have a clock. Not like a computer that has a clock. Sure. The law has time. It's such a huge element of what we do, right? We say if you perform, then this is going to occur, and that, and it's kind of like a waterfall of performance applications. So now we've modeled that out as well. So you can basically start triggering out those basic workflows TransFlow around these specific things. So, and you'll be able to access this all, and this is the part that gets a little obscured by the site, but it's all accessible through REST API for those who are more technical. So if you want to actually begin to identify certain pieces of that flow or certain agreements or interact with that, you're actually going to be able to do that, which is really nice. Like, we make this really easy for computers, right? Thinking that if we make it really easy for computers, eventually it'll get really easy for lawyers too.
So can I just get a raise of hand so I know kind of the order to go in for the next question? Okay.
Hi. So I have two questions. The first question is, will we ever have arrays and lists within the markup language? Why aren't they on my front end? Yeah, so they call that. So structures, custom structures, yes, I hear you, but that's an array. What do you want? Okay. Just tell me what you want. Yeah. That's all you want. What I would be looking for are the functions that are applicable to arrays and lists that I would have in JavaScript. Like, what is the length? Length. Yeah. Number of shareholders. Stuff like that. The structure.
Do you want?
Our concern was calling it array.
So we're trying to. I mean, this comes from my time with like PD and Kia. Like we spent a lot of time just trying to make the markup language piece easy enough that anybody can use it. So you don't need to be a programmer, right? And lawyers are not going to become programmers. For us, maybe and a handful of others, really most lawyers are not going to be programmers anytime soon, much to my chagrin. But we can basically make this functionality. So you should just tell us in a simple edit for the feature request. We have two folks, Greg and David, our CTO. We're just kind of checking off all of these little feature requests. So it's exactly what you want.
All right, who's the next? We're just going to give them like Aaron.
Yeah, why don't you come up?
Sorry. So who was next? You, him, and you.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the gentleman from Baker, what you were saying. I think that you might have been thinking too much about the template aspect of this, because what this can do, and the legislation and the SEC hasn't really caught up with this yet. I mean, they're enforcing actions against this, against blockchain and cryptocurrency in general. But what you could do is just like make a corporation and then put the stocks on the blockchain. Now, of course, that's an investment contract. It's going to get shut down or something like that. But the SEC is, they've stated a few times that they are going to figure out something that will let you raise capital that way through the ICO process. I don't know if you know the initial coin offering. That's like the blockchain equivalent to the IPO. And I think that even Big Law could easily just use this and implement it in what they do.
Yeah, so the deal with that question is it's more along the line that when you look at this. Yeah, sorry.
So in response, and yeah, there's some interesting guidance around ICOs and how like the SEC is coming back now and giving people the opportunity to register properly without a lot of penalty. I mean, they're going to go with this. They're going to find a way forward. I mean, they want to be supportive of the economy. When we're looking at this, it sounded a little bit like what you might see in Azure, or where you see these opportunities to build up machine learning systems. You have a modular approach. So my concern when I'm working with my clients is I have to, at some point in time, tell the story of what happened. And that's where the bespoke work comes in. It's not necessarily drafting up the contract, it's understanding the reasoning behind it and why we made certain decisions. So what we face in a lot of this is going to be, it's like a combination of modular programming and algorithmic transparency. The back end of these things that are going to be difficult to explain, especially for non-programmers, people who aren't familiar with the API structure, with the programming that happens underneath, or why certain decisions are made and where they're happening, especially if they're self-executed. We have to look at that and say, it's not enough for us to grab on or glom onto a template. We have to build things up, not just because we're trying to add in our billable hours. It's because at some point in time we have to
be honest with ourselves.
Yeah, so, and that's where I'm going here. So when we're looking at these things prospectively, we're encouraging, and same with you've got like an open source. You want to trust crypto because it's been tested. You want to trust an open source platform because you can vet it. You can go in. Maybe you're not the individual that's going to be checking the code, but you can work with someone who does. And that's where I was curious about the modularity of certain parts of contracting and those agreements. That's something I can say, this is how we're building it up. We're considering this with this clause, and this is how it operates. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like been two approaches to this problem, right? And like this notion of computational law has been around for really like 20, like even probably 20, 30 years. And some folks, like Leibniz was thinking about computational law back when he was thinking about modern physics, right? So this has been a pervasive question in academic thinking for years. And so what we're seeing is two different approaches to how this may emerge. So one approach is we should turn every single aspect of a contract into an object, right? And for me, as somebody that was a practicing lawyer and knowing that law is a little bit mushy, that felt a little bit raw, right? If you turn every single little bit of a contract into an object, it's going to become so difficult to assemble because sometimes you need something a little custom, sometimes it needs to be a little bit loose. So what our approach is here is that we turn as much of the contract into an object as the lawyer or person preparing the agreement wants. So it's a little bit looser. But I think that that's the right answer and one that works well because it actually is what lawyers do on a day-to-day basis, right? So when you're pulling with boilerplate as just a really basic example for a particular agreement or a set of reps and warrants in like a stock purchase agreement or some more complex agreement, you kind of know what you want, right? And you can identify them. You may need some modifications for it. Maybe that's something that's appropriate, as an object, right? Or even a library of particular provisions that you want to pull in. But you may not want to turn every single nitty-gritty detail of that contract into some object-based form. But I think to your other point, which is the most important, we actually provide that transparency. I mean, really, the whole hope of blockchains is to provide that transparency. One way to think about what a blockchain really does at its core, and the reason why people are so excited about it, is that it's effectively a great accounting system. It keeps track of who owns what at what point in time. And that's pretty incredible, right? You have a permanent or near permanent record of all the events or transactions that have transpired. And what cryptography provides, and that's kind of at the core fabric of blockchains, it uses these cryptographic primitives. And what we're leveraging is the ability to verify certain events. Not just verify them like, oh, that happened, but verify them mathematically. So you can take fingerprints of contracts in certain states or certain events that are occurring or spewing off of the contract and actually verify that they occurred. That combination of verification plus the automatic record-keeping functionality of a blockchain is really what makes it powerful. And then the last piece is, and this is what Ross and I think others are excited about, is that you can turn literally anything into a secure digital representation and zip it around the globe like email. And the ability to do that is transformative. So think about, for those that are old enough, and I kind of saw this as like an 8-year-old, the birth of email, right? The ability to not send a letter, but to actually send an email anywhere across the globe. It was magical. So when I saw blockchains, and I think what other people see, the ability to have an asset, no matter how big, no matter how small, no matter what its format is, and to be able to zip that across the globe, there is no doubt in my mind that will be incredibly transformative. The fact that today, sending a wire, it can be actually settled quicker if you got on a plane with like a bag of money than it can over an existing system. It's not the way that the world will ultimately end up off, right? There's no way that that's going to be the state of the world in 50 years. It's going to look a lot like email, where we're zipping around assets in real time. And I think when we do that, we combine it with this auditability and this provability and verification, it's going to be a tremendous opportunity for rebuilding and re-examining how all these core financial legal infrastructure operates. And I think the endpoint for lawyers is actually a good one. I think as we begin to disintermediate the folks that manage the transfer of assets, it actually places more weight on the architects of these systems. And those architects are lawyers. Lawyers are going to walk out of this with some of the power that the accountants have and some of the power that the bankers have. Because they're going to be the ones in the driver's seat putting together these transactions, counseling clients, working through these things and building new emergent things on top of it. So I think this is literally the best technology that lawyers could ever ask for. It gives them more power, it gives them more control, it gives them greater ability to deliver delightful client services. I mean, this is a wonder kit. So I think it's something that you guys all should really think about.
Great, we have time for 2 more questions. One of those questions being right here, and after that we'll raise our hand, and whoever hasn't asked a question yet will get default priority.
Okay, can you please explain a bit about usefulness in some agreements which cannot be self-executed? So I can see it's great with something when you need to transfer tokens or some predictions, but for example, like this articles of incorporation, what's the reason to use smart contracts for something like this? Because what I see for some average corporation, small, you need just 2 cheap lawyers on both sides to sign paper agreements, but now with smart contracts you need great lawyers with IT backgrounds or IT people, so it's longer, it's more expensive. So what's the usefulness of it?
Yeah, well, actually you don't. I mean, Ross just posted this up on Twitter. You can look at it. You actually just need a mobile phone, and you can put that entire transaction together in I think like a minute or so.
Yeah. So my goal really is to create almost like, not only for OpenLaw to have templates in Markdown that you can like quickly run through a deal like with Cooligo, but I also want to create kind of this body of template smart contracts that are paired up to deals and OpenLaw templates that are maintained by lawyers like Michael, like myself, and people that are giving critical thought and making sure that it's up to standards. If there's a change in the blockchain, that it doesn't invalidate any past transactions or cause any problems. So I guess it's kind of like your reliance on the validity of stuff in Wikipedia. In some circles, people prefer what they find in Wikipedia to what they might find in Encyclopedia Britannica. There is a sense that in online communities and with documents that are curated online, that can be more rapid, more adaptable, and that we can create these common market forms, not only for articles organization, but the common market smart contract that people can write to and package deals. So that's kind of something I'm working on, and I need a lot of help. Hopefully I can enlist some of you guys and definitely excellent engineers at OpenLaw. But I do want to make it really easy for lawyers to kind of dive in here and start disrupting the middlemen that are attached to their deals.
Yeah, and I think beyond that, I don't know if like an LLC and representing units of an LLC is going to be the most efficient use case for it. But what I do know, and what I do think is the core thing that lots of folks are interested in, I know Ross has spent some time here as well, I think we're moving to an era where we're not going to just have organizations that operate within one jurisdiction. I think we see tremendous amounts of evidence of that from looking at the communities that circulate around social networks or communities that self-organize around Reddit and other subreddits that are there. We need organizations that are built and made for the internet, not built and made for the legacy world. And those organizations are likely going to be entirely digitally native. They may have a different structure and function to them, but they're going to be here. And they're going to come really fast, because once you see an organization that has hundreds of thousands of people coordinated around it, and organizations that are operating with such a degree of efficiency, I do think you're going to look back and look at things like corporations and LLCs and say, well, maybe that's not the right way for me to organize this. If I have, if I want to build a business, particularly a business that's natively digital, I'm probably not going to want to rely on these paper-based records, these paper-based forms to do that. But I think ultimately efficient systems win. I think when they win is a big question. But the ability to turn an asset into email is magical. And we have examples of this where you could imagine a world where you get paid in real time. Like, why are we getting paid every 2 weeks? That just doesn't make sense to me as like a proposition, that we live in a world where we get information in real time, but yet our assets are locked up and take 2 weeks to process. Why do we even have to pay taxes? We can model out the tax code. It's incredibly mathematical. Taxes should be collected by the government in real time, and we can actually prove those types of rules. Why do we have to worry about cap table management? Like, why have I grappled with Excel spreadsheets to maintain a cap table, and then have to prepare a whole host of law certificate affidavits and other ancillary documents for it? Like, that's frankly dumb. Why are we doing this to ourselves as a profession? We can do so much better than that. And we have the opportunity to do that right now. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the technology. All this plumbing that was really laid down in the 1600s, 1700s, and 1800s, we finally have the ability to look at it with fresh eyes and say, what type of financial system do we want to build? And when I think of that, I think about building an incredibly open financial system and legal system, one that's globally accessible to anybody, one that is hyper-collaborative, one that has people that are minding it so that we know that the quality can be high. We've seen this with Wikipedia as a great example. What's the one media outlet that hasn't seen any evidence of real fake news? It's been Wikipedia because it's collaborative and dynamic and has lots of voices that are part of it and a great community around it. I think that that's entirely possible to set up for the legal industry. We have thoughtful, engaged, intelligent people that really want to ideally make a difference in people's lives, and hopefully big enough so that they can support themselves and maybe some other things along the way. I think that's the vision that we're really pushing towards, and I think it's coming really fast. Frankly, we have like $180 billion worth of assets that are natively digital for us to figure this all out. It's a pretty good market.
Okay, final question of the night. Any hands? No one wants to follow that? Oh, one? Okay. Great, final question.
This is more a technical question. What happens to the contracts after they're obsolete?
What do you mean they're obsolete?
Like
They're done.
a contract is closed, right?
Sure.
Would it still remain on the Ethereum network? Is it pegged against anything?
Yeah, so that's a great architecture question. So we're blockchain minimalists. You can conceptualize what OpenLaw is as a layer 2 solution. So we sit on top of, right now, the Ethereum blockchain. Conceptually, we can sit on top of every blockchain, any blockchain that really has an RPC code or someone to interact with it. Once agreements are signed, evidence of the agreement, as Ross and Michael showed, are stored on-chain, along with a fingerprint of the executed agreement. So we can prove that this agreement was one that was entered into, and we can also prove that we needed a smart contract to be triggered. So once performance is done under the agreement, you still have evidence of that, right? And that's incredibly important when we think about disputes. Disputes don't arise instantaneously, right? It could take years before somebody files a dispute. So we have now authenticated, highly tamper-resistant evidence of the signatures, along with the agreement that people can refer to, along with an audit trail of any smart contract executions. So we can pretty much replay the entire thing. And really, this vision of being able to replay contracts, it was in the mind's eye when Ethereum started. One of the first projects was a platform improvement where you could begin to model out all the payment flows that would accrue from an agreement. So imagine if you're a lawyer working on a complex syndication loan in the future, or some syndicated agreement, and you can actually model out what's going to happen, all the contingencies, and know for a fact that that's what's going to happen because we formally verified that through these tremendous smart contract libraries that are beginning to emerge. And that's what happens. And then there's other actions that kind of spew off the contract. Currently, we store them on private environments, so you can think of it as an AWS Docker environment. But we don't think that's good enough. So we're going to be rolling out probably by the middle of this year and storing all those events on something called Secure Scuttlebutt, which is an incredibly cool technology. You can think of it like a permissioned Git, where you can create state channels. So we think of this as a fundamental substrate for Web3, where we'll be able to store in an encrypted and sharded format all the event information. So we will not be there at all. We'll have actually, for the first time, peer-to-peer contracting. There will be no center in the system outside of this relayer, which we showed, which is what packages transactions down to the network. So it's going to be pretty sweet. The cypherpunks are winning, so we figured it out. Yeah.
Awesome. So those are all our questions. Any last things you want to leave us with, Aaron?
Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you, Michael and Ann, for putting this together. Thank you to the legal hackers for kind of starting a lot of these conversations. And obviously, thank you, Ross. It was a pleasure to meet you. Yeah. So, thanks so much.
Yes, and last but not least, obviously, thank you again, Baker. Sorry, I can't speak tonight. But thank you, Baker, for hosting us again on such short notice. Thanks, everyone, for coming. And OpenLaw will be here if you guys have questions or want to get in contact. Same with Ross. Thank you again. And we have some swag stickers in the back.